I found out my husband used my inheritance to secretly fund his mistress's dream bakery, and he thought I'd never find out. My name is Rachel, and for most of my life I believed patience and kindness would protect me. I grew up in a small town in North Carolina where community potlucks and Sunday church picnics were the highlights of summer. I was the girl who baked pies for neighbors, designed posters for the school fair, and stayed after class to help teachers. People always described me as sweet and too trusting for her own good. I never thought those words would become my curse. After college, I married Josh, my college sweetheart. Josh had that easy charm, the type that made even gas station clerks laugh and old ladies invite him over for tea. I was drawn to his warmth and how he claimed to dream big. I inherited a small fortune from my grandmother when I turned 28. Enough to buy a house or start a business. Josh encouraged me to keep it safe in a joint account, promising he'd help us invest wisely. At first, I saw small red flags. Josh began taking business trips to Asheville, supposedly to meet future investors. He'd come back smelling like cinnamon rolls and new cologne. He claimed it was from trying new bakery spots for inspiration. My gut twisted, but I trusted him. That's what good wives do, or so I thought. One rainy Tuesday, I came home early from my part-time design gig and found an envelope slipped under our door. It wasn't addressed to me, but my curiosity won. Inside were glossy promo flyers for a new bakery in Asheville. Ella's Sweet Haven, fully funded by an anonymous investor. My heart pounded. Ella was Josh's old friend from culinary school. He always claimed to mentor. I searched online and found a launch party photo. Josh, holding a champagne glass, standing next to Ella, both laughing like they owned the world. I felt my soul tear apart. That night, I confronted Josh. He didn't even deny it. He blamed me for not being ambitious enough and said Ella deserved a real chance. He told me I wouldn't understand real business because I was just a small-town artist. I stared at him. Years of pie-baking, poster-designing patience went up in flames. I realized the money I'd trusted him with was gone. My grandmother's legacy, the house I dreamed of, everything. I didn't scream. I didn't throw plates. I went to bed in silence, listening to the rain hit the roof, each drop sounding like a ticking clock, counting down to something inside me cracking open. The next morning, I looked in the mirror and saw a new woman. One who was about to rewrite the narrative, not beg for scraps. I didn't cry that morning. I made pancakes, kissed Josh on the cheek, and promised I'd support his dreams. Josh looked at me like I was a puppy who'd finally accepted its leash. He had no idea he'd just awakened something powerful in me. I called my friend Melissa later that day. Melissa had been my college roommate and now worked in marketing for local businesses. She had a reputation for helping small brands blow up online or crash and burn. She was fiercely loyal to me and had always said she hated Josh's fake charm. Melissa agreed to meet that afternoon at our favourite coffee shop downtown. I told her everything, from the suspicious trips to the bakery photos. She leaned back, sipped her cold brew, and her eyes lit up with the same gleam I'd seen when she pitched viral campaigns to clients. "Rachel," she said, "it's time to show him what a small-town artist can really do." I hesitated at first. My nature had always been to forgive, to mend, but as Melissa listed out steps and strategies, I felt my spine straighten. The world Josh and Ella were building with my money was about to crumble. Melissa showed me how we'd reveal everything to the world, carefully and publicly. She planned a full social media storm, expose posts, scheduled leaks and targeted ads, calling out the anonymous investor behind Ella's bakery. I spent the next few days gathering receipts, bank statements, emails, screenshots of messages Josh sent bragging to his old friends about launching Ella's dream on Rachel's dime. At night, I played the devoted wife. I cooked his favourite meals, watched Netflix with him on the couch, and even listened to him rant about fake friends and lazy investors. Inside, I was storing every detail, every smirk, every smug sip of his wine as fuel. On a Thursday evening, Melissa and I scheduled the first strike. An Instagram post from my private art account showed a painting titled "The Thief of Sweet Dreams," featuring a faceless man pouring stolen honey into another woman's bakery oven. Within hours, local food bloggers picked it up. Comments flooded in. "Is this about that new bakery? Is this about Josh?" Josh came home that night, slamming the door, demanding to know what I had done. I calmly asked, "What do you mean? I thought you loved ambitious women." His face turned ghostly pale as his phone pinged with angry messages from investors, family, and even Ella herself. In that moment, I knew he'd finally tasted what betrayal felt like. A bitter, public flavour he could never wash down. Josh thought he could charm his way out of anything, until he saw his face on the front page of our local foodie blog titled "The Sweetest Scam in Asheville." After the Instagram post went viral, the local blog Carolina Eats picked up the story overnight. They reposted my painting with a headline that screamed betrayal. By morning, their story had already been shared over 10,000 times, and comments were flooding in like a summer storm. Friends from my old art community rallied behind me. They started reposting, adding their own captions. "Support real artists, not scammers. When you steal a dream, you bake your own nightmare." Meanwhile, Josh tried to call a damage control meeting with his business contacts, but the internet doesn't forget, and it doesn't forgive. Ella, who had always played the innocent dream chaser, now found herself cornered. She posted a long, tearful Facebook Live, claiming she had no idea the funds came from my inheritance. Her performance was full of sniffles and self-pity. But the public had already chosen a side, and it wasn't hers. Josh burst into our kitchen the next morning, his eyes red from no sleep. He slammed a stack of printed comments onto the table. "How could you do this, Rachel? You're ruining my life," he shouted. I calmly sipped my coffee and replied, "I didn't ruin your life, Josh. You did." He called me heartless. That word almost made me laugh, coming from the man who stole my grandmother's legacy to fund another woman's business. Josh demanded I make a public statement to clear up the misunderstanding. He claimed he could fix it all if I just played the good wife once again. That morning, I packed a small bag, grabbed my grandmother's old locket, and called Melissa. We agreed it was time for phase 2, the legal strike. Melissa connected me with a lawyer known for fighting dirty corporate fraud cases. By noon, I was filing a lawsuit against Josh for misappropriation of marital assets, breach of trust, and emotional damages. While Josh ranted on the phone to his PR guy, I quietly left the house. I moved into Melissa's guest room for a few weeks, somewhere safe and empowering. Ella's bakery, meanwhile, faced protests outside. Videos of locals holding signs saying, "Not with our money," and "Justice for Rachel" went viral on TikTok. Josh's investors pulled out one by one. The once smug dreamer now stood alone, his entire castle of lies collapsing brick by brick. As I sat on Melissa's porch, sipping sweet iced tea, I watched news clips of angry ex-customers returning pastries to Ella's storefront. For the first time in years, I felt peace and a quiet satisfaction blooming inside me. I used to think revenge meant screaming matches and broken dishes, but sitting silently as he lost everything was far more powerful. In the weeks following the lawsuit, I watched from Melissa's living room as Josh's world disintegrated. Every morning brought new headlines. Local entrepreneur exposed as fraud. Investor lawsuit rocks new Asheville bakery. Wife's art strikes back. Old college friends started messaging me, apologies for not seeing it sooner. Even my mum, who once thought Josh was such a catch, called crying, apologising for ever doubting me. Melissa became more than just my strategist. She became my rock. She reminded me to eat when I forgot, pushed me to sketch new pieces even when my hands trembled, and forced me to go on walks when I felt paralysed with shock. She always said, "Your silence is your sharpest weapon now." And she was right. One morning, I got a call from Ella. Her number popped up and my heart hammered against my ribs. She started sobbing the moment I picked up. "Rachel, please. I didn't know. He told me you didn't care about the money, that you were just a boring housewife." Her words felt like shards of glass. I listened, gripping the phone so tightly my knuckles went white. Ella begged me to make a statement to clear her name. She offered to pay me back in installments, claimed she couldn't survive without her business. I paused before answering, thinking about all the nights I stayed up waiting for Josh, all the times I questioned my worth because of their lies. I told Ella calmly, "Your survival is not my responsibility. My grandmother didn't save her money so you could open an overpriced cupcake shop." Then I hung up. Josh called later that night. He wasn't yelling anymore. His voice was low, shaky. He said he missed me and wanted to start fresh. He tried to play the guilt card, reminding me of our first date at that small-town diner, how I used to sketch him on napkins. He asked if I remembered those good times. I did remember, but they no longer meant warmth. They meant manipulation, an illusion I had outgrown. I replied, "Josh, you buried us the day you decided my dreams didn't matter. Goodbye." I blocked his number, then took a deep breath and closed my eyes. It felt like shedding an old, heavy coat I'd been wearing for years. I realized true revenge isn't about destroying someone else loudly. It's about rebuilding so fiercely that they can never reach you again. While Josh and Ella were trying to salvage their public image, I was quietly planning my comeback. A comeback they would never see coming. Melissa suggested I channel all my anger and grief into something constructive. She reminded me that my art was my superpower, my voice when words failed. So I began sketching again. At first it was shaky. My hands trembled every time I picked up a pencil, memories of Josh's betrayal hovering over me like a storm cloud. But as I kept going, something shifted. Each stroke felt like therapy, like I was peeling away layers of self-doubt he had piled on me for years. An old gallery owner, Mr. Carter, reached out after seeing my viral painting online. He remembered my college portfolio and said he'd always thought I had a raw edge that could shake people up. He invited me to host a solo show at his new downtown space in Asheville, the same city where Josh and Ella's bakery was now crumbling. Part of me hesitated. Was I ready to step into the spotlight again? Would this make me look petty or vindictive? Melissa looked me dead in the eyes and said, "You're not being petty. You're reclaiming your narrative." I thought back to my grandmother's soft voice telling me, "When people show you who they are, believe them, then paint your own truth." I spent weeks pouring everything into new pieces. Paintings of women breaking free from cages, faceless figures stepping into bright sunlight, broken mirrors reflecting stronger versions of themselves. Melissa helped me curate the show and create a launch campaign on social media. The event quickly gained traction, especially because people recognized me as the artist who exposed the bakery scandal. Opening night arrived. The gallery was packed. Reporters, bloggers, local artists, and supportive strangers. Mr. Carter introduced me as the phoenix who rose from betrayal's ashes. As I stepped forward, I didn't tremble. I looked out at that sea of faces and felt a warmth I hadn't known in years, genuine respect and support, not pity or manipulation. People lined up to buy prints and paintings. Some offered to commission large pieces for their offices and homes. My inbox exploded with collaboration offers and gallery invitations from cities I'd only dreamed of visiting. I realized I hadn't just taken back my life. I had built something new, something stronger, and something entirely mine. While I stood in the gallery signing prints, Josh and Ella's final downfall played out just blocks away, and I didn't have to lift a finger. Word had spread that Josh and Ella's bakery had gone bankrupt. Photos started surfacing on local forums. Empty shelves, closed signs taped to the door, unpaid bills stacked up inside. I learned that after the lawsuit and public backlash, they had no investors left. Former staff members quit en masse, some even sharing TikTok stories about unpaid wages and toxic work environments. A local food critic who had once praised Ella's pastries as the taste of new beginnings now wrote a scathing exposé titled "From Sugar Dreams to Bitter Crumbs." In the article, he detailed how their brand image was built on lies, money stolen from me, and illusions of hard work. It went viral in less than a day. Josh sent one last desperate email. He blamed Ella for everything, claimed she manipulated him, and that he had been lost and lonely. He begged me for help, even suggested we talk things out over coffee. I felt nothing, no anger, no sadness, only a soft, peaceful emptiness. Instead of replying, I forwarded the email to my lawyer. He laughed and told me he'll probably try every emotional angle now that he's cornered. Later that evening, I attended a quiet after-party hosted by Mr. Carter and Melissa. Artists toasted me as the warrior with a paintbrush. Someone handed me a limited edition paint set as a gift, and I nearly cried. Not because of what I'd lost, but because of what I'd finally found. Melissa raised her glass and said, "To Rachel, proof that the sweetest revenge is success." Everyone cheered. In that moment, the girl who once cried alone in a small kitchen finally felt seen. By the time I returned to my new apartment that night, I saw the latest headline: "Ex-bakery owner declares bankruptcy, former wife's art show sells out." I closed my laptop, took a long breath, and felt truly free. This wasn't just a win over Josh and Ella. It was a victory over every doubt, every insult, every whisper that I wasn't enough. A full year had passed since that first Instagram painting that started it all. I now lived in a bright loft in downtown Asheville, walls covered in half-finished canvases and wild ideas. I started hosting art classes for women who had been through betrayal, teaching them to tell their stories through colour and texture. It wasn't just about revenge anymore, it was about community and healing. Melissa and I had grown closer than ever. She managed my brand, booked my exhibits across the country, and even organised charity auctions to support young women artists. My parents visited often, bringing me flowers and telling everyone they knew about my shows. They had finally seen me, truly seen me, beyond Josh's shadow. One rainy afternoon, I received a small handwritten letter with no return address. Inside was a single line: "I hope someday you can forgive me." It was from Ella. I sat with it for a moment, watching raindrops race down the window. I felt a small ache. Not for her, but for the girl I used to be who believed everyone deserved endless chances. I put the letter in a drawer and walked to my easel. There was nothing left to say to her. I had already spoken through my work, through every brushstroke, every exhibition, every tear shed over an empty canvas that turned into something beautiful. The final piece for my upcoming New York show depicted a woman standing on a cliff at sunrise, hair blowing wild, arms wide open to the new day. It felt like a farewell to the old Rachel. At the New York opening, I stepped onto the stage to a standing ovation. Collectors fought over pieces, journalists asked for interviews, and young artists approached me, eyes shining, telling me I'd inspired them to stand up for themselves. In that moment, I didn't just feel powerful, I felt infinite. When I finally returned home, I stood on my balcony overlooking the city lights. I whispered a quiet thank you to the universe, to my grandmother, to that broken girl who refused to stay down. I realized revenge wasn't about breaking someone else down. It was about building yourself so high that they can't even see your horizon anymore. In the end, I learned that the most powerful revenge isn't loud or violent. It's living so fully that your former betrayers become nothing but a footnote in your masterpiece. And when you finally look back, all you see is the breathtaking view from the top.